All characters ranked for July 2020, and this is my list of usefulness, which is a scale from 0 to 6. 6 places them in the most useful, and basically what that means is that these characters that have 6s and 5s are useful almost in every game mode, and these are characters that I'm using all the time, everywhere. And these are also characters that I recommend putting in gold and silver promotion credits, upgrading those red stars, and also doing T4s. In general, I mean, everyone has lots of exceptions, but I'm saying these are the characters that I would suggest using first. So the point of this list is to identify characters that are useful in multiple game modes. And there's basically 6 game modes. And, you got Arena, U7, Dark Dimension 3, War, Blitz, and then also PvP. And I want to say most characters are useful at least in War and Blitz. So most characters on this list and the staple characters on this list are all going to be a default 2s. And then if a character is useful outside of War and Blitz as well, they may get a 3 or 4. And then our God tier characters are going to be 5 and 6s. And as you know, 1s and 0s are pretty much bottom of the barrel. Those are going to be the trash. And those are the characters that, even if I pulled high red stars, maybe I won't use them. And I still might not suggest putting tons of resources into that. That being said, if you pull a high red star on one of these characters that are lower down on the list, like 3, 4, 2s, whatever, you might get more use out of it because this was not taking into account your star levels or anything like that. Now, before we get into this list and just go down to the bottom of the list, up and down, and kind of talk about the thought process of why they are what they do, I want to do a couple things first. First things first, I've got this list right here of characters that I am not using anymore in War. Woo! At most, you can use 8 defensive teams and 12 offensive teams. So that's a total of 20 teams or 100 characters. And these are the odd man out for me currently. I'd like to get a variation of this list, maybe with Valley, of characters, because he blitzes more than I do. Maybe a variation of list of characters he never uses to blitz that are not helpful to him to use and blitz at all. And there's some really good characters in here, but I'm just saying these are characters based off of my roster and my usage inside of War. I'm not using these guys in War currently. Spider-Man might get brought back into the mix if I mix around my Squirrel Girl team and my Avengers team. Wolverine may get used depending on certain matchups that I take my X-Men in. Lots of exceptions to this, of course, and it's based off of your red stars and your roster, of course. Now, also want to give a shout out to this website right here, msfpal.gg, msf.pal.gg. Tons of helpful tools. Run, don't walk, go check it out. And I also want to give a shout out to BlueStacks. BlueStacks is what allows me to play Marvel Strike Force on my PC. I'm sponsored by BlueStacks. There's a link down in the description. It does help support this channel. Now, let's talk about the 5 and 6s. These are God tier characters. And I want to talk about characters that have been going up on this list and characters that have been going down on this list. So what happens in this game is new characters come out and they are going to be stronger and there's going to be power creep. So of course, those are the new characters that are on their way up. And generally in this month versus last month, we've seen some drastic improvements and numbers get increased on this list by Black Order. They're actually getting used in raids. There's a node in raid, in Ultimate 7.5 where people are using Black Order to one-shot it. I believe it's the War Machine node. Yikes. I'm just getting more use out of them. They're way better than I initially had thought, and they're great. Also, I want to say I'm getting more use out of Crystal. She looks like she is a great counter in Arena to Phoenix. And also, she's been helpful inside of Viewpoint 7. That's great. Out of the new X-Force characters, pretty much Domino and Teenage Warhead are going to be useful in Blitz and in War. Only one that is getting some use outside of Blitz and War would be X-23. Some people are telling me they're loving her inside of PvP. And I kept PvP in consideration because PvP takes into account for the raw power of the character on a standalone basis, which is something that some tier lists exclusively focus on. It's like, wow, this character is better than this character. And I made this list more focused on this character is more useful, gets used more often. So these 6s and these 5s, yeah, let's just say it. These are the characters that are easy consideration and choices for allocating T4s, gold promotion credits, and sorts. And even, you know, if I look at this list right here, most of these characters I've done tons of T4s into them. The exception to that would be like Colossus and Carnage. Colossus passive is fine. Carnage passive and basic is fine. Minerva really doesn't need T4s. Mr. Sinister, maybe just his ultimate, and so on. But a lot of these characters pretty much are fully T4'd in my roster. Black Bolt. Ebony Maw's got all but his passive. Hell, I've done all of them. Phoenix, I've done all of them. Symbiote Spider-Man, I've done all of them. Thanos, I've done all of them. Ultron, I've done all of them. Captain Marvel, I've done all of them. Invisible Woman, I've done all of them. She doesn't need the basic though. Proxima probably will end up getting all of them, but I've done her basic and passive. Shuri needs her ultimate and her passive. Yo-Yo, basic and ultimate, basic and passive, but I did all four, and these characters are great. I'm using them everywhere all the time. Now, characters I think that might be falling off this list is Captain Marvel. Characters that have been moving up on this list in usefulness is Ultron. And the reason why Ultron is being brought up, and so is Colossus being brought up, is that the arena is being dominated by Black Order, and there is a very strong team that counters Black Order right now, which involves Colossus, Invisible Woman, Ultron, and then of course, Black Bolt and Phoenix. I mean, we got some characters here that are just the best, and that would be like Black Bolt, Phoenix, Symbiote, Spider-Man, almost always useful. Now, there are two factions I want to talk on before we move on down the list, and that is Symbiotes and Sinister Six. Symbiotes, I believe, are here to stay and are only going to get better as time goes on, because we've got 3 symbiotes in the game, and they are dominant in U7 and also inside of Dark Dimension 3. And so we've got Symbiote, Spider-Man, Carnage, and Venom, which is down a little bit lower. Fantastic. I can only imagine what it's going to be like if we add a 4th one or 5th one. Good night. Yikes. Amazing. And then I also want to talk about Sinister Six. Sinister Six has been rather mediocre, but they were vital because they helped you unlock 2 legendary characters that are very important. That would be Shuri and Invisible Woman. However, Doc Ock will be the next legendary character, according to Dead Minds. And is he going to have a Sinister Six tag? We will see. Will they become the best, or will it be a new team? We don't know. I don't have any ideas, but I'm thinking about Sinister Six a little bit more. Also, let's go down to these 4s and these 3s, and these are better than staple characters. So a staple character will be useful inside of War and Blitz, and these 3s and 4s are characters that have places outside of that. They're actually useful in more places in the game than just Blitz and just War. And so we've got a lot of really good characters in here. Some of these characters unlock other legendary characters. Some of these are counters to other characters. Some of these characters are good in raids. Some of these characters are useful in Dark Dimension 2, and so on and so on. Some characters that have been kind of falling off a little bit, which might as well talk about it, is Loki, Scientist Supreme, maybe even Star-Lord. I'm starting to lose a little bit of interest in Star-Lord. I know I've been saying get him as the first legendary, but I don't know, man. Star-Lord's fallen off quite a bit, and so I've adjusted the levels of these as appropriately. And the reason why Heimdall's on this list is because he is Asgardian, and Asgardians lead you to Black Bolt. So these are all characters that are more useful than just Blitz and War. And if you have a high Red Star version of this, maybe consider taking them up higher. Now, where do I take these characters up to as far as power levels? And I want to talk about this because this is important. I believe that if you have a character you like and you think they're good, but you don't want to take them all the way to 14, because you can only take so many characters to 14, I believe you should stop at 12 and not put any gold resources into them. I'm talking about the gold materials like SBCs and things like that. So unless you're wanting to take a character all the way up to 14, I would suggest stopping at 12. And I believe the characters that you should be taking to 14 are going to be these ones up here at the top of the list. And, you know, any of these characters right here with the gold rings on them at 6 and 5s are excellent choices to take to 14. Even further on that, there's some of them that are exceptionally useful in like Dark Dimension 3. That'd be Ebony Maw, Hela, Phoenix, Symbiote, Spider-Man, Carnage, and Minerva are quite exceptional inside of Dark Dimension 3. And my suggestion is do not get stuck without having your Minerva ready in Dark Dimension 3. She's tech. I shifted a lot of pieces to Ultron and Shuri, where if I had put them into Minerva first, I would have finished quicker and then had tons of extra pieces to put into Ultron or Black Bolt. Same thing happened to me with Carnage. I'm stuck where I don't have enough pieces to upgrade Carnage because I had put a lot of those pieces into Invisible Woman, Yo-Yo, and Black Bolt, which are good characters, but I would have been finished with Dark Dimension 3 months ago. I'm not exaggerating, maybe months ago, if I would have put those resources into Carnage first, finished up Dark Dimension 3, ran through it, then I would have an abundance of materials because finishing Dark Dimension 3 is so many pieces, maybe 20 characters, I don't know. I'll let you know when I finish it. I'm struggling right now because I don't have the pieces for Carnage because I had put them into Invisible Woman and Yo-Yo and Black Bolt. And those are good characters. I'm not saying they're not, but I wish I would have done Carnage first and I wouldn't be stuck right here, right now. Now let's talk about 3s and 4s. We talked about them. They're great. Let's talk about the 2s. The 2s are just staple characters. Now, you could look at a traditional tier list that evaluates the power levels of these and says, Black Panther is a stronger character than Mantis. I understand that, but this is mostly about usefulness. And at the end of the day, Black Panther is useful in Blitz, sure. And he's also useful in the Chaos Theory. And I got to give Wakandans a shout out for Chaos Theory. Chaos Theory is amazing. And upgrading your Wakandans is worth it just for that. And so they get an extra point, even though I'm not really using Wakandans even more anymore. I'm not using M'Baku and Okoye for sure, but maybe they'll have another run at Wakandans being good. Maybe if a new movie comes out or something like that, we'll get another character. But these are just generic characters, and typically what I do with these generic characters right here, which I use weekly inside of War and Blitz, is I take them up to level 71, and then I stop. And the reason why I take them to 71 is there's a pretty significant boost in focus and resistance from going from 70 to 71, and then after 71, the gold prices just get exponential and go through the roof. And another good place to stop would be to 65. If you don't have enough gold to go to 71, maybe stop at 65. But it gets really steep beyond 65 and exponentially steeper on gold going past 71. And so it is what it is. The other thing too is I may take them up to 11, but I will not take them above 12, and I would not put gold pieces into them unless I wanted to take them into 14 in Dark Dimension 3, but these characters are just not candidates for that right now, in my opinion. Now, I will put T4s into them if they make their team much better. So sometimes I'll put T4s on these characters if they make the team a lot better. Domino was a character I put a T4 on her passive, but it's not like I'm going to put 3 or 4 T4s in these characters. No, it has to be some sort of exceptional T4 that drastically helps the team, of course. Now, we're going to get down to the bottom of this list, and you can see the rest of it. Now, we're getting into these 1s and 0s, and unfortunately, these are characters that fall short of even being useful at times inside of Blitz and War. And some of them get a point just because they help you unlock a legendary character, and that would be like Hand Assassin or Nobu. Not much use for that guy other than he helps you unlock Phoenix. And I got to say the same thing for M'Baku and Okoye. Chaos Theory is important, and being able to get the promotion credits is, why they got a point. I don't even know if they'd be useful. And the only reason why Wolverine is here, this kind of broke my heart, is because I'm expecting Beast to push Wolverine out, and Wolverine's not going to be as useful. Sad day. And then we've got these zeros down here at the bottom, and I don't know what to say. It's just, these are characters that I have a hard time justifying using anywhere at any time. Ant-Man and Wasp, there was an event, but I suppose if you have high red stars on them, they might be useful. I mean, even Wasp's kit is decent. Even Nebula's kit is decent. It's just no synergy with other teams, no real team for them to follow them, no place for them to work, and that's fine. Now, some of these characters are exceptionally bad because they've already had reworks. That would be the AIM faction and also in the Mercenary faction. Those factions have already had reworks. Factions that have not have reworks would be like the Ravager faction. Maybe these guys are going to get a boost someday. Maybe there'll be some sort of Ravager team. And then also, Night Nurse is slated to have a rework along with Black Widow and poor Winter Soldier and Hawkeye and Avengers in general. Kind of sad state. All right, so again, I guess the point of this list is to rate things according to usefulness. And I think most people agree that these characters here on the top of the list are the most useful. And those are the characters that I would be looking at first if you're considering where to spend your T4s and promotion credits. Absolutely. All right, guys, let me know what you think of the list. Of course, everybody's got different opinions on these things, and you may have some characters that you like more, a little bit more than I do, or if there's characters on this list that you think are a lot worse, of course, put that down in the comment section. And as always, thanks for watching, and keep on gaming.